In August of 1971, the United States left the Bretton Woods system of international financial exchange, otherwise known as the gold standard, in which the US dollar was freely exchangeable for gold. By default, what was left to back the US currency is the GDP, or the economic power of the US dollar to be exchanged for domestic produced goods and services. Who produces these goods and services of the GDP? U.S. companies, of course, but what is the foundation or the economic power of these companies? A company is created when an investor or group of investors put their money into a legal entity for producing something they believe can be created and sold for greater profit than the cost of producing it, thereby creating value to shareholders when they share the profits through dividends. If the company becomes publicly traded, then anyone can become an investor of that stock, with the hope of gaining a return in dividends or by selling the stock on the exchange for a profit. The hope of selling back stock for a profit can be more speculative than actual value in the stock. When the speculation for a given company drives stock prices higher than actual ability of the company to produce a profit or the sum of the company assets, a speculative bubble is produced. So the true value of both the dollar and the stock exchange are dependent on the health of companies to produce a profit. It is the legal fiduciary responsibility of corporate officers to ensure the company is operated in such a fashion as to produce a profit. In a company that produces services or products like software that is a direct product of the human mind, the officers must manage in such a fashion as to ensure a productive and healthful workplace. But there's a serious problem facing corporate officers today, which threatens the very foundation of companies and is being caused by the company's managers and employees. People have forgotten the collapse of the stock market of 1929 and what life can be like if companies fail and the perceived trustworthiness of stock exchanges are lost. The underpinning reasons for the 1927 crash were the primary causes for the Great Depression. There is obviously something wrong in the corporate office place. The mental health of the average corporate worker has declined. I walk through my office building and I see men and women stressed, and in some cases crying when they think they are unobserved. Talking with people open enough to speak freely reveals that most feel isolated and display signs of paranoia. Sitting back quietly and observing, it becomes clear that many employees are practicing forms of psychological operations against one another. The perception of two employees are intentionally manipulated by a third who has analyzed the other two for mental vulnerabilities in the ability to change their perceptions by planting ideas and suggestions with the intent of causing distrust and perceived offenses between the two employees. I hear references to the Game of Thrones in conversation between managers impressing on me their perceptions. They believe the smartest manager is the one who can best psychologically manipulate everyone else. Often I see managers attempt to peak the actions and change the work direction of employees through causing offenses between two co-workers, leveraging negative emotions such as jealousy. These constant long-term manipulations instill a sense of injustice, isolation, and worthlessness that often leads to bitterness. These actions are poor management practices and actually cause detriment to an employee's mental health, just like poor working conditions can damage employee physical health. In some cases, the mental damage can lead to post-traumatic embitterment disorder. Stockholders need to hold corporate officers responsible to stop this poor management practice that actually does damage to employees and their ability to produce a quality, cost-competitive product, and therefore threatens the ability of the company to produce a profit, which is the only legal reason for its existence.